well, in the US, we have seemed to believe, at least in the environmental movement, that religion is problematic environmentally, this sort of whole dominion over the earth kind of idea. And so that's why I was, if so, what does that look like? Or if not, what does that look like? But it does look like from the social science literature, it was almost like, well, if anything, religion actually seems to be helping the cause more than it's harming the cause. There's some of these studies that said this whole dominion idea, it might exist, but it's not being reinforced by religious teaching. It's like, oh, well, that's
Mm.
interesting. Or there's the finding that, yeah, people seem to have varying levels of wanting to engage in environmental work, but the more they attend church, the more they seem to care about the environment, even in more sort of traditional conservative religions, which really seem to cut against the idea that there was some religiously based anti-environmental strain in the US.
Mm.
And then there was some other stuff, in the 1990s, Willett Kempton and some colleagues did this book on environmental values in America. And they just happened to ask an open-ended question of like, well, where do your environmental values come from? And they were sort of flabbergasted by the response that far and away the most popular answer was from religion and spirituality.
Mm.
Like Americans were saying, I care about the environment for religious and spiritual reasons. And in second place, well below that religious and spiritual was for anthropocentric reasons, like, well, we care
Mm.
about humans. And then there were also the third place was biocentric reasons, which makes sense. We care about nature. But I felt like, the environmental movement was very much focused on saying that religion was bad or anthropocentrism is bad, and you've got to be biocentric, otherwise you can't care about the environment. And it's like if you actually just listen to Americans be like, well, no, I actually care about the environment because of religion,
Yeah.
spirituality, and maybe because I care about people. And and so discovering things like that, I thought, well, this is more complex than I wanted. It seemed like this whole, if you will, Lynn White thesis that says, oh, this theological idea that comes from the Bible is humans think they have dominion and therefore they don't care about the environment. It just seemed more and more like a straw man kind of. First of all, it's theologically totally incoherent. That is not what dominion means. Anybody read,
Mm.
go to the stacks in the Yale Divinity School library and read all of the books in the environment and science section and tell me what percent of the theologians say anything anti-environmental about that. Almost
Mm.
0%, right?
Mm.
It's not a surprise to theologians that the Bible is not
Mm.
saying don't care about the environment, right? So that was interesting to sort of see that, even American culture more generally, there seems to be this thing that we have not appreciated and didn't expect and didn't even almost want to allow it to be possible to be true, that religion might actually be this positive source of environmental values. And I
Right.
took that as, I think it was also then the results of the series of religions and ecology that Mary Evelyn and John did at Harvard in the mid to late 1990s. I remember Mary Evelyn once summarizing that whole series and saying, well, one of the big take-home messages is that the world's religions are a massive source of a well of a possible source of environmental ethics for the world's people.
Mhm.
And you can get that out of, most any major world religious tradition. There's vast and deep resources for